do as a crash scene. So it's so weird because everything I've been learning is keep the car under control, keep the car under control, don't lose control. And it was like, right, you're gonna have to now crash this GTR. So my name's Jordan Morrison, I'm a current serving firefighter, and things have elaborated recently into stunt driving, precision driving, going all around the world, driving in different vehicles, racing. So yeah, just been having some fun with it, and that's basically it.
And what are some of them credentials so they know what to expect?
Yeah, so one of the films that I went on luckily and was a really good part of, I would say, was Gran Turismo. Managed to do an episode of Gran Tour, and this all sort of elaborated from a TV show that I did many years ago, and that opened up some doors for me that I never thought would open up, to be honest.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. So I've known you many years from having rubbish Novas, as we know. So before we get into trying to try this professional thing, passion of cars, where does that start, and where do the Novas come from?
Well, that starts from meeting you, obviously, back in the day. Because how long have we known each other? Probably pushing 20 years, maybe. Yeah. I mean, when I was brought up, cars weren't a thing. Mum, single parent, didn't have a car.
Sorry, go on.
You're touching me, getting excited already.
Stroking you.
Mum, single parent, didn't have a car, so I'd never even been around motor cars or anything like that. What I do remember as a kid was I absolutely loved making Lego cars. There was nothing else that interested me. And then that evolved into remote control cars. And then I got the opportunity to go to the BTCC when I was about 11 years old, and it just wowed me. It was at Alton Park. I was sat on top of a car with my remote control car, watching these racing cars going, I would do anything to do that when I'm older. Like, that was like the key moment. That was like cars, 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 cars. I remember having a poster on my wall of a Jaguar XJ220 and thinking, look at this supercar. And that was like my poster boy, say, dream car when I was a kid. And then I got my driving license, and it started from there. Got a rubbish Corsa as a starter. I'm going to throw the hints there for the Corsas. Got a Corsa, and then got a Nova, and then moved into sort of track days because I thought, I love cars. I don't want to lose my license on the road. You know, we do silly things when we're younger and stuff like that. And then, sort of moved into track days, and that's how sort of we met through the Novas and the Red Tops. And unfortunately, to this day, I've still got one, and I can't get away from it for some reason.
It's your dream car, you tell me.
It's a dream car, mate. You know, I've driven all sorts, and to me, that car is still one of the best cars to this day.
Brilliant.
And it's just what you like, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
So your day-to-day job is a fireman.
Yeah. Firefighter.
Firefighter, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, PC.
You know what I mean?
So you're a firefighter. You've been doing these track days. Does at any point you think, I'm good at this? Or do you just go, I'm enjoying this? Is there a switch moment?
Not, you know what? Not at all. And even to this day, I'll be honest with you and people who are watching, I have self-doubt. You know, I doubt that I'm any good at this, and I'm always trying to improve, which is not a bad thing. And I think that was my biggest thing, I had self-doubt. So I didn't really believe that I would go anywhere with this. And even with doing the track days, I was definitely up there with some fast boys, and I was in a much slower car. But I didn't realise I had any skill or talent at the time. And I'm still finding that out today, you know. From a psychological point of view, you know, I'll do something and always think how I can improve it. I know that's pretty deep for that question, but at no point did I ever think I'm really good at this.
Okay, so then the start of your journey was you applied for a TV show, which is very interesting because you're saying you self-doubt.
Yeah.
Why then did you apply for a TV show when you'd self-doubt yourself, put yourself on a big platform, on technically Sky TV? What was the TV show? Why did you apply for it?
Yeah, so I'll go back a bit to the cars, and then that'll lead to this. So doing the track days, we had the Nova, and then I got the Megane, and that was like, it was a Megane R26, and we turned it into a sort of full-blown track car. If those that are watching will know the R26R, I couldn't afford it at the time, but I was like, right, I'll make this the same. So polycarbonate windows, roll cage, everything. And I was just hammering track days, Nürburgring, hammering it, doing loads of laps, just absolutely loving it. And then with that, my confidence on track and driving just grew to the point that it come in 2018, I seen an advert on Instagram and it was for a TV show called Faster Racer World. And I told my missus immediately, seen this advert, I was like, look at this, flipping this advert on Instagram. It's like driving all these different cars around the world and you'd be in a race series against other people. Like, how fantastic is that? So I showed my missus and my missus like, you should apply. Now, at the point of showing my missus, I never thought to apply for the show. I was just showing her the advert. I didn't think I should put myself forward for it. But my missus was like, no, you should apply for it. And I was like, really? So she's like, apply for it. And I was like, yeah, I will do. Put it off. Didn't apply for it. Self-confidence thing maybe, whatever. Just not that interested. And then it was the final day to apply for it, and I remember, and I sent a WhatsApp to my missus saying, it's final day to apply for this, and maybe I was probably looking in her for that push to make sure I went and did it, and she said, just apply for it. By this time, she was banging her head against the drum, just do it, and then see what happens. So I applied for it, and didn't hear anything. And through the application, basically, you're just talking about what you've driven already, what your sort of car history is, what you're interested in cars, motorsport, whatever it is. And then I had a really weird phone call off someone at the time and was like, hi, we've received your application. We're just looking into it. We'll be getting back to you shortly. So I'm thinking, right, okay, is this real or is it a scam? Because you don't know what to believe on Instagram, etc. And then someone's contacted me and said, can we do a Skype interview? So I was like, right, this is definitely a scam. Do you know what I mean? This is 100% a scam. So did a Skype interview. Guy interviewed me. He was asking me all my stuff, how I come across, obviously, on the Skype interview talking. And then that elaborated into sort of a face-to-face interview and then a fitness test to make sure you were healthy and that you were all there, mind and brain as well. And then it was left there. Didn't hear anything. And then I got called down to Silverstone for a test day. Now, it wasn't on the track. We didn't know what it was on the time, but it wasn't on the track, and it was like in the car park, and it was a big area that was set up. And this area that was set up was like loads of like fences and cones, and it was just a big area, and there was a couple of different cars. And the other contestants were all invited down. I think at the time they had 60 to 100 people. And what would happen on this day was they would narrow down to the final 6. One of the things was like, you was in a Mustang and they wanted you to do donuts around a cone. And I hadn't done much of this already because I'd only had front wheel drive cars and used them on track. So I didn't have the experience. But we got in the car with an instructor. He told us what to do, showed us once, and then we did it. And I think this is where my job as a firefighter sort of helped me, because you were given an instruction, you were shown what to do, and then can you do it? So I just listened to every little bit of information they did and then applied what they said and didn't do anything different, didn't try and show anything off, didn't do anything, did exactly what he said. And then it was like a reverse J-turn and there was like a little sprint circuit and showing you once and it was like, can you remember it? And that was one thing that I was good at, was retaining once I'd done a circuit. And I think the most important thing of that day was you listening to the instructions and was you safe? You might have not been the best driver, but was you safe? And I think I hit all them boxes and I came out the car with a big grin on my face, obviously, regardless of the result. And I remember pulling into the car park on the day and I was in this old Peugeot Bipper, and I don't know whether you've seen that old Peugeot Bipper, but it was smoking out the back. It only just made it down to Silverstone. And I parked up, and all the way down there, the self-doubt's going, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And I parked up, and a guy was in a brand new Aston Martin who was also taking part in this. And I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, well, what am I doing here? I've never even driven anything like that. So how can I be better or compete with people like this? Anyway, that all finished. I went off, didn't hear anything. A couple of weeks later, I got a call off a girl called Kerry, and Kerry was our main port of call through it all, and Kerry was a fantastic person, and Kerry basically said, you've made it onto the show. And I was like, what? And I was at work at the time, and I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, and you'll be going to the first country. And I was like, is this real? Like, is it actually happening? Like, why have I think I asked her, why have I made it? But obviously they're not going to tell you
No.
why you've made it or give you any feedback, so it was a silly question to ask. Anyway, so long story short, we went to the first country, and what happened was there were 6 contestants, and in each country someone would get knocked out. Luckily for me, I made it to the final. So it was me and one other person, and in the final country, you'd do 3 different races. The first race and the second race wouldn't really count. It was just like where you're at. Now, bearing in mind, throughout the full show, I'd never came first, but I'd never came last. I was always middle of the road.
So can I interrupt then? So,
Yeah.
because I'm intrigued, because you've gone to this interview day.
Yeah.
You've jumped in a Mustang. What then? So obviously, first show, what cars are they throwing you in during this process?
Yeah.
Because are they the same stunts you were doing originally, or is it your track racing?
So
the
first country we was thrown into was Finland. So you can imagine, if you know the layout and the geography of Finland, at the time it was all snow and ice. So it was a rally circuit in a Subaru. Then we had a McLaren on snow and ice. So we had all these different things that we were thrown into, and mistakes were made from everyone. But one thing for me was I was consistent. So we'd do these different circuits, and then the first week of the show, no one got knocked out. It was all a bit of a surprise. You're all going to the next country. And then we moved to the next country. So we went from one extreme to another. We went from Finland to Dubai. So as you can imagine, when I say Dubai, what comes to mind? It does come to mind supercars, but also comes to mind all the sand buggies and stuff like that. So it was car racing from that culture or that area at the time. So we moved into there, and then someone got knocked out, and then moved to another country.
So was you racing sand buggies?
So yeah, we raced in sand buggies in Dubai. So we did the sand buggies. We did like a big dune buggy as well, and then someone would get knocked out and then move onto another country.
So each time you go into these places, in my head here now is you're still, I mean this in the politest manner.
Yeah.
You're still a novice.
Oh yeah.
You've never raced dune buggies. You've never raced on ice.
No.
Do they go, right lads, or boys and girls?
Yeah.
We're going to throw you in this car with this instructor, and he's going to teach you for an hour. Everyone's going to get an hour instruction before you go on the ice, because technically you're just going to smash this thing to bits.
So this is what will lead on to how I got into other things.
Okay.
But throughout the show, we were all novices. We had no prior training or experience, and they were putting us behind powerful cars, dangerous cars in environments where anything can go wrong. So obviously they had a duty of care as well. So we were put in there with an instructor. Our instructor was a guy called Nicky Faulkner, who we will lead on to, but owns a company, Driving Wizards. And he would basically give us all a debrief and give us all a sort of safety briefing when we go in the cars, and he'd show us what's needed to be done. And that had to be fair, because obviously this was a challenge series. So he couldn't be like, oh, well, you can gain a bit of an advantage here, or you can... The information had to be the same, so no one... Because at the end of the day, it was a TV competition, so no one was allowed to gain an advantage. And he would just give you some knowledge of how to drive a circuit. He'd show you, and also how to keep it safe, do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you didn't want to crash out. If you crashed out, game over.
Yeah.
So the whole point was, for me, not necessarily winning, but being consistent. Okay. And I picked up on that. Whereas other people would be like, winner, winner, winner. Do you know what I mean? So I just knew I had to be consistent throughout the whole thing.
We've gone dune buggy, we've gone ice racing in Subaru and a McLaren. We've gone to Dubai to do the dune buggies.
Yeah.
Then you've still got, obviously, the next one. What different cars are there from there?
So we went to Miami. We did like low riders. So it was just actually operating a low rider, so it's nothing to do with speed. Right. Do you know what I mean? It was like
driving and doing the suspension?
Yeah, doing the suspension, which is actually really difficult.
Right.
So we're getting all these different experiences of different cultures and their cars in the area, which was kind of cool. But we actually did so we had the monster trucks there, which were like in I don't know what you call them, but basically where all the alligators are and stuff, like in Miami. I can't remember what name of it was called. So you do the monster trucks, and they were like 1,000 brake horsepower monster trucks.
You're talking
big monsters, like
right,
proper,
the proper monster trucks,
proper
like,
monster
like
trucks.
Monster Jam, whatever they're called.
Yeah, and we'd be going through like massive puddles and ponds and everything, and just mud buggies basically.
Right.
And that was it was such a good experience because that was held on. It was literally held on a handbrake. You'd mash the throttle, as the Americans would say, let that go, and the finger just launched, mate. And it was just like, I'd never driven cars over 300 brake horsepower at this point in time. Yeah, this is what I mean. And it was like, but you know what? I threw myself into it, and I just dealt with all the different things at the time.
So let's go, because I'm interested in that, because I didn't know lowriders. Why are lowriders so hard?
It was just getting the timing right of throttle and switching it and jumping it up and down.
So it's not. So you can't do it at random points.
No, you can't do it at random points because it doesn't. Or the ones that we were given didn't have that rhythm of going up and down at the same time. So that would show. So you would get points, even though it didn't mean anything. You would get points for getting that rhythm.
Consistent speed and bouncing and all.
Terrible.
Right, okay.
And I wanted to be really good, like the cat was backwards, the sun was out, the arm was out the window, and I was hoping, and I looked awful, mate. It looked absolutely terrible. So you've gone from the monster trucks, you've gone through that one. Yeah.
Then after that?
So we did Japan, and that was drifting. Same again, not great for me. Not done anything like that before. So it was like, right, am I worth being here? I can see myself going out at this point because my skill level was showing, and other people were drifters and had that experience. And the final challenge of that was a Gymkhana circuit with 350Zs. And luckily, the person that I went up with at the time also did Gymkhana. So a lot of people, there's 4 of us left at this point, and a lot of people would see that as a threat. But for me, I was like, right, I'm going up against this person, and if anyone knows Gymkhana, there's 2 cars at one time, and they've got separate circuits, and you go up against each other. But I knew that going up against him was great for me because it would be a gauge for me to see how far behind. I wasn't expecting to beat him because it was only the slowest person loses. So I knew that if I was up there with the fastest person, then I would have a chance. Whereas if I went with the 2 others at the time who weren't doing Gymkhana and that wasn't their skill set, then I wouldn't have a good gauge of where I was. But I knew, basically we did the 350Zs, and that was like donuts, round, handbrake turns. As you can imagine, all these things. And obviously I'd learnt these things from our instructor, no one else. So I had someone teaching us and teaching everyone else how to do these things.
How long was that teaching for?
We'd only get probably, and now coming to think of it, we'd have a while in the car on our own, but with the instructor, probably an hour max.
Right, okay.
So it wasn't long.
So you're throwing the deep end of an hour max, and you've got to do these donuts.
Yeah, you've got to do this. And if you mess it, and also with these challenges, like if you mess it up, you mess it up. Game over. If you give up, you give up. If you crash, game over. So it was pretty. There was no second chances.
Okay.
So that was one of them. I wasn't expecting all these conversations in the details.
It's all good.
But
for me
you've never heard this.
I've never heard this. I've only known the big picture. Well, I went and did this, and I don't know the ins and outs, the details.
Yeah. So from there we did LA, and LA was pretty cool. If I remember correctly, we had Subaru BRZs.
Okay.
Same as the Toyota GT86, and that was a gym. You could say it was a Gymkhana style circuit, but it was like a car park, coned out area, and it was a speed trial and stuff like that. What else did we do in LA? It's been that long ago. It's 2018, bearing in mind. But basically, what happened was I made it through to a final with another person. So through all these challenges, as I said before, I'd never come first, and I obviously never came last because I would have been knocked out. So the final was in Barbados, and 3 more car races. The first one was aerial nomads, so basically like an aerial atom, but the off-road version. And that was a cool little thing. Really enjoyed that. And that was all sort of precision driving with a bit of speed over bridges, round barrel donut in and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to set the scene here. The other person that I was up against was very consistent at winning. And with this final one, what happened was he won the aerial nomads. Then we went into the second place, which was, I think it's called Bushy Park, which is in Barbados, which is like a rallycross circuit. And we were in BMW compacts, hydro handbrake. And for some reason, everything just clicked for me. And I don't know why.
Right.
Don't know why, but everything just clicked and I knew what I was doing and I was comfortable in the car. I was relaxed and I was fast. Bearing in mind, I'd never won one at this point. And we went into this final country and this person who had never been beaten by me was beaten.
Right. So
and
it's 1-1.
It was a big game changer. It was 1-1.
Yeah.
But all that matters is the final challenge. So he could have won them first 2 challenges. It doesn't count.
Okay. The
final challenge matters. But at this point, he's thinking, well, actually, Jordan can actually beat me. So anyway, we got to the final challenge, which was Suzuki Swifts. We was expecting more at this point, but unfortunately it wasn't, because obviously we'd proven ourselves with all these other vehicles. But that was actually through the cities of Barbados, and it was like through the town centre, which was kind of cool. And yeah, basically the other guy won, is what it is. Racing's racing.
Yep.
And he won that, and he won the overall show. Unfortunately, as we've talked about, the show never aired for its own reasons.
For legal reasons.
Legal reasons that it can't go into. But the show was called it was going to be on Sky, and it was called Faster Racer World. Yeah, you can still find it. It was presented by Steve Jones, who was a cool guy. And it was great to talk to him, and such a good experience. Do you know what I mean? So
you come back then, you've got right to the final.
Yeah.
Have you come back going, I reckon I could do this?
In the final?
No, as in, so you come home.
Yeah.
You've done all your filming. Did you come home and go, I think I've got this? Or did you come home and go, well, I've had some fun, I didn't win, or was you still your confidence down, or would you like, I need to chase this?
So basically I came back from there and I just had the bug to go racing.
Okay.
Now during the show, Nikki, who I talked about earlier, Driving Wizards, pulled us to one side and said, I could potentially use you for some work.
Just
and
you
it was
personally?
literally that. Well, I don't know whether he asked anyone else.
Right, okay.
But he came to me and he said I could use it for some work. And obviously, like anything, I didn't know if it was genuine or taken with a pinch of salt at the time, because people may say things and they don't elaborate. So I was just like dead appreciative of it. I was like, that'd be great, fantastic. So that show finished 2018, and I came back and I was like, right, well, I'm going to now be proactive and try and get my race license, because it gave me the bug to go racing. Went and got my race license, nothing elaborated because of the cost of racing, as we could sell it. You know, at the end of the day, you know, I couldn't afford to go racing at the time. And then luckily I got a call while I was away with the family off Nikki, and Nikki said, I think I've got you your first job. And I was like, right, okay, what's that doing? And it was a commercial advert. And that's basically how that sort of elaborated.
His career starts going on.
Yeah, and that was my first job. So my first job was working with Thierry Henry in the Renault advert. And I got to go down to London. It was such an eye-opener. And luckily, Nikki was there to hold my hand, because I'd never done anything like this before. You know, you've got to remember, like, number one, I got a lot of self-doubt before it. And then I'm in this position now where I'm working with someone very well-known and famous. I wanted to make sure I did a good job as well. So I worked with Thierry on the Renault advert, and Nick was there to hold my hand, and yeah, absolutely nailed it. But it was such an eye-opener, because I didn't realise, or I underestimated how much goes into TV and film world. Okay. I didn't realise the amount of takes, the amount of stuff happening behind the scenes, the amount of crew that are on there, how they actually film these cars with another vehicle. Like, before it, I'd never really thought about it, but then I'm here, and then I'm seeing that, they've got a thing called a crash cam, you know, and it's a camera that's in a box. and they've got a thing called a Ukraine arm or Russian arm or whatever you want to call it. It's basically a big vehicle, big arm on top that swings around and can get all your shots.
Like the big,
So it's not what some people think it's a person hanging out the vehicle, which has been done before for budgets, who's tied off to something and they're filming with you, but you can't get all the shots you want. So it was my first introduction into all that and how I'd work with that as well. So yeah, it was an eye-opener. And I got to meet Thierry Henry and what a sound guy, just like dead nice guy. Like
we'll go down the little rabbit hole with the TV adverts before we get into the next stage. So what TV adverts have we kind of got? So I know a few. The one which always stands out for me is that you told me a bit of the story of, and we'll go into, is the Merc one.
Yeah, the Merc one. So I went out to Ukraine with Nicky, and with that we were working with will.i.am. And for anyone that's watching, you can obviously imagine how I work in this industry. So I ended up as a double at times for people.
Okay.
And that's where I was very lucky. So I basically ended up as and I can say this, and I'll be in shock if people will be offended, because I am embracing the fact I ended up as a black double for people.
Yeah.
So the way the industry's gone in TV and film now is, if there's a female actress, they want a female double. Yep. And it makes absolute sense, you know. And I think years ago, the industry might have struggled for them types to be doubling other people, depending on who was available or who could do the actual job. But for me, luckily, the industry's changed where, you know, they need a black person doubling a black person for whatever reason.
So that's why you ended up doing will.i.am.
Yeah, so that's why I ended up doing will.i.am and the Thierry Henry stuff. But don't get me wrong, I don't drive everything because I was still learning at the time. So, for example, Nicky did a lot of the sliding, drifting, precision stuff at the time, and I was still
on the Mercedes.
Yeah, on the Mercedes, and like for me personally, I was still learning. And you've got to imagine, just setting a scene, you've got his company, who I drive for, learning, and a lot of reputable people, and he didn't want to mess up anything. But that being said, mistakes do happen, and I want to not say that I've never made a mistake either, because I was learning. And what happened with that was basically, this scene was a mirrored floor, I'm just trying to set the scene for people, mirrored floor, mirrored sides, 1 or 2 inches either side of the car. So it's a narrow box, as you can imagine. I'm just trying to set the scene.
And what car is this? Sorry, just so people know.
So at the time it was the electric Merc, which was
the C63 Sport.
It's like right. So it's like the performance electric Merc at the time. Hybrid, sorry. I'm sure it's hybrid. I can't remember. I've done that many. Honestly, it's so hard. Either way, it was a pokey car. Right. And basically, we've done this scene, and with anything with film, it's never just one take. So we've done it, take another. Done it, take another. No problems. Just running through it. Repetitive, no issues at all.
Through this mirrored tunnel.
Driving through this mirrored tunnel, and also I'm not set up in this mirrored tunnel. And I'm probably not setting the scene correctly. This isn't in the outdoors, this is in a large studio. The studio's dark, and then the tunnel's all lit up. And then you've got your thin sides either the tunnel, and you've just got to drive straight through. 1 or 2 inches either side of the mirror. No room for error. So I'm entering the tunnel, leaving the tunnel, entering the tunnel, leaving the tunnel. Probably did about 30 different runs. Because what you don't see is there's probably a camera in the car where they'll get a shot. There was an RC car underneath that's coming towards me that you get another shot. Then there was like a golf buggy that drives through, and he's got a camera on the back and he's getting a shot. So I'm doing this, no issues. And then just one take, and I've planted the throttle, and it's just twisted a little bit, and that's all. And it's just enough to scrape the back of the car. It wasn't bad, but it was enough for me to go, I shouldn't be in this industry.
Really?
Yeah, because I knew I was still learning, but it knocked my confidence. Nicky was cool about it. He realises that we were pushing for more and more shots. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to do right by him and his company, you know, and unfortunately, you're known as your last job. So if you've made a big mistake, luckily it wasn't, and I'd proved that I could do it several times without any issues.
Pushing the look at.
But just pushing a look.
Mirror smash.
One thing happened, and no mirror smash.
Oh, no mirror smash, right? Okay.
No, so it wasn't a big thing, but it was enough for me to be like, right, mistake.
Because I was picturing you losing the
You
back
was picturing
end, the full mirrors going,
full side of the car, like, and I'm no, wait, no.
Oh, that's a better story though.
Yeah, it's a better story, but it didn't go that way. But you know, for me, it was like learning from that, and I felt terrible. But these things happen, and we were pushing, and at the end of the day, that's why you are put in certain situations to avoid these things happening. And touch wood, that's never happened again, and I've learned from it, and I've been put in some pretty hairy situations since then.
Which again, I'll move on to the next one.
It's weird because that seems quite like work since then. Do you know what I mean? Now when I think about it, but
so you've done your TV adverts, you're doing all them, you're in and out. When do you get the phone call then for the big one, the Gran Turismo movie? Or is it something in between?
Yeah, so as this is happening, I'm like, right, I want to go racing. You know, I really want to go racing. So I'm doing a couple of TV adverts for Driving Wizards. And I literally owe that guy everything. I really do. Do you know what I mean? And he'll probably watch this, I don't know. I'm sorry if I've said something I shouldn't, but without him, I would have never got in the industry as such. And he's given me that sort of leg up. And I've worked hard as well to pay it back, I think. And I just couldn't be any more thankful because I don't think I would have ever got that opportunity, and I did, and I've took it, and I've done the best I can with it. So I also wanted to develop myself as a driver, and I thought, well, it's all good, you're doing this stuff, but let's go racing, and also the crack and the bit of fun. And it was like, right, what can I afford to do? And the most affordable one at the time was Citroen C1s, and the great way to get racing. So I got my race license, went racing. A good friend of ours, Pete, helped me out, funded me along the way as well. Because what you got to remember is I don't come from a racing background. I don't have a massive company.
You're a working class guy.
I'm a working class guy. I've got a family to look after. Do you know what I mean? I've got 2 kids. So I couldn't then put my money into just going racing. It'd be selfish to do so. Although this is my passion and my hobby, it wouldn't be fair to do so. So luckily I went racing. Absolutely loved it. And bearing in mind these cars are 68 brake horsepower, front wheel drive, not well set up to an extent. You know, they're pretty much on standard brakes, standard suspension. But the guys, I used a company called MLP Developments. Big shout out to them because they helped us get into it. They showed me the ropes. They literally helped me every step of the way because obviously I had never been in this environment. Nicky come down watching one of the races, which was really nice because they're the little extra things that I realised that he isn't just using me for work. He's also a mate and wants to see us develop as well. Okay. So he come down, give us some tips and hints. You know, he came down to Donington and watched one of the races, and that was it. And just got the bug to go racing, mate. So I did a bit of racing.
And you've also thing for Nicky is if you've got your race licence, it's more on your CV.
Yeah, of course it is. That's it. Yeah. So I went racing in that, and luckily our friend Pete also gave us the opportunities to drive some of his cars, which was a big help, I think, in the industry for myself, because if anyone would have seen Pete in Too Many Cars before.
So anyone who watches the channel, Pete is the owner of the Metro 6R4 that I've been driving. He has a wild collection of supercars and rare cars.
Don't rub his ego anymore.
You don't need that rubbing, trust me.
But yeah, so without him, he gave us a massive opportunity to drive some of these supercars. So I'd gone from driving 200 brake horsepower normal sort of track day cars to like 600-700 brake horsepower Ferraris on track. You know, even to driving an LFA. How many people have driven an LFA on track?
I remember that one.
With someone next to him going, go for it, go for it, go for it. And it was like, wow, this is mega.
And he cooked the brakes.
Yeah, proper cut the brakes on it. So that has all led into, for me, seat time and development, which has helped without getting funding from elsewhere to go and learn and do these things. Anyone knows, and yourself know, motorsport is an expensive thing. Yeah. And like I said, I'm just making the most with what I've got. some people are born into it. Some people get an unbelievable opportunity or have a business that will fund that, but I didn't have any of that. So it was like, right, where can I improve my skill level? Because I'm a person that wants to self-develop, say.
Yeah.
So where can I improve my skill level as economically as possible? Which is an unusual one.
Yeah.
Because no one really thinks like that, do they?
So you've got all this time then. Pete's got you into these supercars to get your experience in these supercars. Nicky's obviously assisted you, coming, watching you, pushing you. This has all developed over a period of time. And again, where does the phone call come for? And we're going to say, obviously, we know it's the race thing, the colour has got you the job, but where did the phone call come for the Gran Turismo and all that type of thing?
So bearing in mind, I'd done TV adverts up to this point, maybe a couple of TV programmes, one scene in Luther, but I hadn't really done any film as such. And got a phone call off Nicky saying, potentially, do want you to do Gran Turismo. He will submit my CV as such on what I've done so far. So I was like, wow. Like, when someone mentions something like that, is like a childhood dream. Do you know what I mean? To put it in perspective to people, it's like saying, this is your football team that you followed all your life. Now you're playing on the pitch with them.
Yep.
And that's the best way to put it. So I'd played Gran Turismo as a kid, like many of people on PlayStation. And I knew of the story of Jan already before it. So then to be told that I might be part of it was it was mind-blowing. But I didn't have the job at this point. So that's the other thing. You get told that you might have a job, but then you waiting and you waiting and you waiting. To the point where then you're going out there and you're going doing the job.
So you've had the phone call.
So I've had the phone call, I'm on, and I'm like, right, okay, so no idea what cars you're driving because we knew about the story. But if you think about Gran Turismo as a game, there's all sorts of cars in there.
Yeah.
So you can't practice or train for that. You don't know what it's going to be. And then it was pretty much going to follow Jan's story. So that was GTRs in the academy, and then GT3 GTR, and then LMP, which Jan driven. And it was just like, right, okay, so I'm going from Citroen C1s.
This is the thing for me. You know,
this blows your mind, doesn't it?
This is blowing my mind, how you go from a 68 horsepower.
Yeah, so I've driven a couple of Pete stuff on track, high-powered stuff, LFA, Porsche GT3, he's special at Herta, what else? I've driven a couple of Pete supercars on track. I've never driven anything really that meaty though at the time. So
the difference between, because I've seen some of the photographs and we will maybe put some in, is to jump in Pete's supercar, because I've driven some of his supercars, is that's a road car. From what I saw of the Nismo GTR you sent me the pictures of, it's a full-blown race car. Cage, the full works.
Yeah, full works.
There must be night and day.
Yes, night and day, mate.
So let's go from then. So you've flown out.
Yeah. So with anything with film, hopefully you will have testing, and that's not necessarily testing for myself, but testing for the actual car. Does everything work as we want? You know. So with Gran Turismo, we had, I think there was about 30 drivers from all over the world. And to put it in perspective, I'm a novice driver at this point still. And, you know, I didn't have that experience. So for me, it was like, or I'd class myself as a novice driver anyway. And I probably still class myself as a novice driver to this day. But to put it in perspective, I was just like, I was well out my comfort zone and out my depth. That's the best way to put it.
So I know. So who were some of the drivers, some of the names?
Yeah, so the main person that I was working with from the start was Mark Higgins. So Higgy, for me, childhood dream, watching him on the Isle of Man TT in the Subaru was like, right, so one of the first things I was doing was getting put up against Higgy on a Gymkhana style circuit. And it was like, I can't drive next to this guy. This guy's world champion. Like, how can I drive next to someone like him? And luckily, I don't know what it is, mate. And don't get me wrong, these guys helped me. These guys were fantastic. Like, the support of other drivers was unbelievable. There was no egos. There was no, I'm not helping you do this. And I'm also a sponge. So tell me something, I'll sap it, I'll acknowledge it, and I'll do it. And I won't do anything different. And I think that that's what's helped as well. So at any point, I knew I could ask for advice, and these guys would help me. And that's a really key thing, because you might hear things, and you might, especially with motorsport, hear egos or people won't help you do stuff. But I've had nothing but help and advice, and I couldn't be any more appreciative of that. Do you know what I mean?
So you turned up, they've gone, right, first car is your Nismo. Well, it wasn't, was it?
No,
so the first, it was the Corrado.
Yeah, in the way the movie goes and how it's filmed, two different things. But yeah, so we did the Corrado scene. So at this point, the reason why people might ask, I was doubling for Jan because Jan was racing as well. Okay. So he couldn't do certain points. Now, this is where all the stars aligned for me, because if Jan wasn't racing at the time, or he wasn't so busy, he would have done this.
Okay, I didn't know.
So I got in because he couldn't make these certain things, which was great for me. So thank you very much, Jan. Very much appreciated. So while we was out there, Jan wasn't even there for them bits. And then we did like the Corrado scene and stuff like that. And then it was like straight into the GTR. GTR was fine. I didn't feel like out my comfort zone or anything. It was just get in, drive it, it does its job. And then there was a crash scene. So it's so weird, because everything I've been learning is keep the car under control. Keep the car under control. Don't lose control. And it was like, right, you're going to have to now crash this GTR. Now, with film, you can't crash it and then put it all back together and try and crash it again, because that costs too much. It takes too much time. So if you are going to crash it, you crash it properly. And if you're not going to crash it, or you're not going to get it where we want you to crash it, then pull out of it. Because you've got to remember, it's all good driving a car fast and crashing it, but you are working towards the camera. You are working for the camera.
I see.
So this is the interesting part that I had to learn very quickly, because anyone could go, oh, well, I can drive that car and I can put that car sideways, but can you put that sideways to the camera?
Because they're specific points.
That's where, yeah, because that's what they're shooting. So the camera's not going to always see everything unless you're there for it. So if you're not there for it, then that's a wasted shot. And what's the point?
And when crashing a car, you can't have a wasted shot.
You can't have a wasted shot. So every bit of crew was watching. Drones are up in the air. I'm on this racetrack, and this was within the first 3 weeks. I know I'm a learning driver still as such to do this stuff. I'm not top level, and I was nervous. I can't say I wasn't. And the reason why I was nervous was because the pressure of everyone watching. This was early on days in filming the whole thing, and if a big mistake was made, then potentially you're no good, you're off.
Yep.
So I knew I had to really focus and get it right. So the scene that I'm talking about is where the GTR basically goes into the arm cove of all the tyres, and it goes in sideways. Easier said than done. And the reason why it was easier said than done is, I'll just set the scene in the GTR. The GTR had no hydro, had no handbrake.
Oh, right, okay.
It's GTR, isn't it?
Yeah, so
how do you lock that up? Oh, it had a foot brake.
And how did you get it right?
Had a foot brake. So you've got your normal brake, obviously, and you've got a foot handbrake. And I thought, I've never used one of these. It's American sort of style. So it's like, push the foot brake, it'll lock the back. So it's fine, but it was like, right, that was another thing that I had to get my head around, and it's not that difficult, but I probably made it more difficult in my head because I hadn't practiced with it.
Did you practice with it? So did you go, there's a big open car park, so we got, have a couple of goals?
So we got a bit on the track, some cardboard boxes, hit these where we got to hit them. I got probably 3 goes.
Oh, God.
And it was like, right, okay, right, let's nail it. So I've got Higgy with me at the time. So I'm like, I've always got Higgy with me. So it's like, Liefenecky's watching me. No, next to me. So the scene goes, and Higgy basically cuts me up on the corner to where I lose control. And again, there's a crash camera. So when we're doing anything like this, the crash camera isn't there to hit the crash camera. It's there to avoid hitting it, but get as close as possible. So there's a camera there, and I know where it is. So first thing I'll do is drive around, get my sighting spots, make sure I'm happy. Do you know what I mean? Make sure I know where everything is so that you're not just winging it. The last thing you want to do is wing it, and you also want to be confident to go, I'm not happy with that, or I need to change this to make it right. But you also want to achieve what they're trying to achieve as well. So with that, driving this GTR in, and I knew when I left, so it's 3, 2, 1, action, go. I knew I was doing it because I thought, if I'm not doing it, then I'm going to make things worse for myself, because I'm just going to be like, I'm going to build up more anxiety about actually doing it. Yeah. So I literally sent it. I sent it and I nailed it, mate. Don't know how.
Everything was aligned.
Mate, honestly, I was just like, luckily Nicky was part of the scene and he'd come over to the car at the time. This is part of the movie, but not part of the movie. And he's like, are you all right? Are you all right? Part of the movie. And I was frozen, mate. I was a bit like, not shocked, but I was a bit like, because all the energy had gone out of me. Yeah, the adrenaline dump had gone then, and I'd done it. So I basically took this GTR, locked on the foot handbrake, locked the back, and then it come in sliding nicely and just hit it perfect. Crash cam's there, and you can see the back end of the car coming. And then when I watched it in the movie, I was like, that's me, that. Do you know what I mean? And I know that sounds thingy, but it was just like, I know what I'm doing. For the first time, it was like, right. Okay, so it gave me a lot of confidence, because it was at the early start of filming everything. And it was really weird because I got out the car and the scene's got to be left as it is. And I just felt so awkward. Everyone's clapping and cheering, like, just because I don't know if it's a thing to make sure that you're all right. Yeah. Because it's still a hard hit. Yeah. Like, if you see the state of the back of the car's all crumpled. Like, it was still a hard hit. So they were either clapping in, happy is all right. They're either clapping to say, well done, great job, or they're clapping and laughing in amusement. It was a terrible job.
And you don't know at this point.
And luckily, it was a great job.
Fabulous.
Literally nailed. There was no repeats of it. They were happy with it. Move on. And then it was like the fun stuff. So it was like, right, let's go racing. So we'd go out in the GTRs, part of the scene, and we'd do loads of pounding laps. And that would be with cameras in all different places, helicopter up, drone up. And we're just pounding laps for
And is this actual racing? Or is it, they say to you, 80 mile an hour, 70 mile an hour?
Yeah, so
you'd overtake in.
So there's always guides, and we'd also have toy cars. And the toy cars are a key part to anything with this stuff, because everyone knows their positioning, rather than...
What do you mean toy cars?
So you'd have toy cars, little
like
toy cars like as a kid, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And you'd have them toy cars, and you'd have them on a table, and you'd have your name on it, and it'd be like, Jordan goes here, Jordan goes here.
So they discuss
such goes here. So it's discussed, so that they're not coordinating it as you're out there. Because if you're coordinating it as you're out there, and someone doesn't know where they're going, and someone else pulls out in front of them, then you've got a big smash maybe.
Right.
So everyone had a bit of a plan. At points we would freestyle it, and it'd be like, treat it as racing. But for some scenes, we would also coordinate it. Because if someone says, treat it as racing, yes, we were getting up to speed and we were going fast. Like, we weren't going slow, because you wanted to create that effect on camera. But with racing as well, you don't want to crash.
Yeah.
So it was just getting that fine balance. So making it look lively and making it also look like we are racing. And at points we were racing and we were having a laugh as well. So it was just an unbelievable thing to be part of. So that was just in the GTRs.
So let's before we
yeah,
go
yeah.
to the next car.
I know you want to move up to a bigger.
No, we'll get there in a minute. So for me, it's you're in this GTR, you're on the set of Gran Turismo. Was there ever a point you sat in this car? You've got, I only know a couple of the guys. You've got world champion Mark Higgins at one side.
Yeah, Nicky with me.
Nicky with you.
Yeah.
Now Max Shea.
Yeah, yeah.
Who knows the rally driver, world champion
so
rally
got
driver.
all these class people.
All these class people, and you're sat there going, how have I done this? What's going on?
Mate, even before, when I got the job, I'm telling myself I can't do it. And why am I going out here? And I don't know why. I've stopped doing that now, but that's what point I was at. So even when I'm sat there in the car... So
you sat in the GTR, helmet on, you drink store, all that type of stuff.
It was like I said to you, at some points I'm like, why am I here? Why am I here? Yes, you're here because you double for this person and you look like them, but in my mind I thought I couldn't achieve or do what these other capable drivers were doing.
Right.
And obviously I could.
Yeah.
But at the time, obviously I was like, I can't do this. So that self-doubt happened a lot. But then the self-doubt would immediately go when I've achieved something or I've done something. So for example, the crash scene, I was like, oh, I actually deserve to be here. I've nailed it. I've done it right. I've done everything they wanted. Then you'd go and do another scene. Before the scene, I'd be like, what am I doing here? Do you know what I mean? What am I getting put in a GT3 GTR for? Like, and then I'd be in it and be like, oh yeah, that's why I'm here. And I'm flying down the street and I'm like, whoa, and I was just like, that's why I'm here. Do you know what I mean? So
we've gone from the GTRs. What's next? What are the cars next?
So gone from GTR. So people were moving about in cars depending on what was happening with the film. But for me, Jan wasn't here at this point, and I was basically putting a GT3 GTR. So test it first of all. So I remember one of the days we was at Hungaroring in Budapest, or Hungary should I say, and Steve Kelso, really appreciate him, was like, mate, go out, go test the car. No one else was on track with me. And that for me was like, imagine how much you'd pay to go testing in a GT3 GTR.
You're reminded of an open track to yourself.
Like, open track to yourself, go for it, go and enjoy it. And I just thought, that was pure pinch me moment. Like, what am I doing here? This is what I'm doing here. Focus, knuckle down, look at what atmosphere and situation you're in and appreciate it, but also enjoy it. And I wasn't enjoying it up to that point because I was like, what the hell am I doing here thinking? But then when I started enjoying it, I was like, this is just crazy. So I was just lapping. And I was literally, while I'm there, I'm testing the car, making sure it works right. Are there any issues? Is there any issues under braking? Is there any issues with gearing? Because obviously we're not filming at this point, but we want to be filming. And we've got time to get these cars sorted before we get into filming to get rid of any niggles. So I'm giving any feedback, but I'm also learning, I'm developing myself. So I'm not just driving around and going, yeah, it's great, yeah.
You're pushing yourself.
I'm pushing myself as well, so that, because this seat time. So if you're not learning while you're doing it, then I feel like you're wasting your time, and I just wanted to learn and develop as much as I can. At no point did I lose control of the car, so I'm very happy. Do you know what I mean? And I was just like, it was just weird. It was like, I'm telling myself I can't do it, and that I'm not capable of doing it, and then I'll get in the car and I'll do it, and then I was just like, I can actually do this now.
Right.
You know, and it was just like...
So what are they cars
It's
like?
giving me confidence. Unbelievable,
so
mate. Yeah, like absolutely unbelievable. So it was full spec GT3 GTR. Just the sound, the feel. It was like nothing I've ever driven before. Do you know what I mean? The braking, I've never felt anything like it.
Right.
And you've got, and also, I know a lot of people who race will watch stuff like this and have driven them cars before. But you've got to remember, I'm coming from rubbish track day cars and Citroen C1s to sitting in a GT3 spec car, and it was just night and day.
Wow.
Just the gear changes, the way it braked, the way it turned in. just everything just felt amazing, mate. Just like, it felt tight. That's the best way to describe
You felt you had
it.
control of it.
I felt I had control of it all the time. Yeah, no issues at all.
So then the movie goes to the Nürburgring.
Yeah, which, bearing in mind as well, this is the other thing. I used to go there for my track days, and it's the same again. It was like, pinch me moment. I'm getting paid here to go to the Nürburgring to take round a GT3 car, and I was just like, this is class. And I remember driving through the track at one point.
Closed track just for you guys.
Closed track for us guys, with a drone coming, and like 4 of us were on one side, 4 of us on the other, and the cars were going whoom, 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 and the drones just coming down the middle, and I'm like, this is epic. But don't mistake that to think that at times it was difficult as well. So at one point, I also did that again. So you would shoot that scene with all these cars. So there's 4 cars there, driving around, outside shots, happy days. At one point, they stuck a huge camera with a load of scaffolding. So basically it's grips, but scaffolding on the front of the vehicle. And I had literally like a window to see out of. It's foggy.
Okay.
And I'm in the GTR so that you get the shots of the cars in front of you.
Right.
So I'm in this GTR looking through a tiny little window, driving this GT3 GTR, and that's all I've got, this window space, and I've not got much else.
Wow.
And you're driving at speed on track. And you're expected to keep up with all the others.
Are they being pleasant to you, as in not really on pace, or are they on pace?
No, you work together as a team.
Okay.
You always work together as a team because at the end of the day, radios, there's some radio comms going on all the time. We had in-ear pieces, and it's no good if one car's miles ahead and everyone else is set back, or one's right set back and everyone's miles ahead.
I see.
Because that looks good for no one, does it?
No.
So we all work together, and like I said, the lads and girls that were on it, I couldn't have had better people to work with, honestly, because they just helped me and make me feel at ease. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the end goal's the movie. It's not personal ego, the end goal's the movie, so you all have to get to the same end.
Yeah, and I'm driving with other class drivers that could have egos or could be up their ass or could be, do you know what I mean? And none of them were.
So was you allowed, so you got to the Nürburgring, so this is obviously my head, what I would do when I go on shoots. So you got to the Nürburgring, you've got a closed track, you've got your Porsche GTR. Do they go, right lads, we've finished filming at 2 o'clock. Right, you've got an hour, go and have some fun.
Go and have fun. No. Never, mate. Because everything's accounted for, you know, and everyone's got their own job. And unless you're on that set, you'll never realise how much and how many people are involved. So them cars are on a call sheet, like we're on a call sheet, to be here at a certain time, to be gone at a certain time, to be picked up at a certain time. And it's the same with the cars.
Wow. Well, that's a bit disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're disappointed.
But obviously, the minute that you're out in the car, you're out in the car.
Enjoying it.
So you're enjoying it and you make the most of it. And the thing is, the minute someone goes, go and have some fun.
Something could go wrong.
Something goes wrong.
The car,
who's responsible?
Yeah.
You're responsible. And then it's so.
Well,
I see what you mean, though. Like I said, sometimes the best time is the testing. Because there's no one going, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it's for you.
There's no camera
and it's
going.
also for you. And this is in anything. So we're talking race cars here. So if you get on set and you're given a car and you've not tested the brakes and you've not tested the handbrake and that the lights work and that full lock works and that it'll go into reverse, if you've not messed about with them things, people look at you and think, what's he doing? And he's like putting in reverse and then he's going forwards and he's lifting his clutch up and he's lifting his handbrake up and he's on the brakes, and people look at you and think, what are you doing? But then you go, right, we're shooting. And then they go, yeah, put it in reverse. And you go, doesn't. Who tested the car?
Right.
So that's your time to
get used to
mess
the car,
about, feel the car, make sure everything works.
Because obviously, we haven't been really in depth about this. We haven't had time to, personally. Because I always wonder is, we'll obviously come to the end of the Gran Turismo shortly, is, did you actually go against the pace against the lads to see how Let's see what they were like to you. That's the big question.
No.
Because I know that would have
No,
stroked
so
you-
for
would have
example,
stroked your
I
ego.
knew I was out there with Higgy, a lad called Ollie Milroy, really sound lad that races a lot. I would never, ever keep up with the pace of them boys.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? I
Nice,
just
it'd be
wouldn't.
nice to know your number though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I know that also I can ask him at any point, how do I improve my pace?
Okay.
How do I, if I'm doing a track day or whatever, and I'm sure they won't mind. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
So, the LMP cars?
So, basically, as the movie's progressing, as in shooting, Jan comes out, mega to meet Jan, humble guy, and he can drive me. He's unbelievable. And he was partly in the GT3 GTR in some of the other countries. And then, so I did like the first half. So basically I went GTR, GT3 GTR. Jan takes over the GT3 GTR and then merges into the LMP car. I couldn't drive the LMP car. She's fine. So you need certain licenses.
Right.
You know what? I'm happy. I'm not greedy. I'm well happy with what I achieved and did. You know, it would have been great to drive one of them, but it's also great to finish knowing that you did everything that they wanted.
You've done the job.
And
for
no
what
issues.
needed
I've
to be
done the job and there were no questions asked and they were happy with everything.
So this is a personal note, me as being your friend who wants to have your back at all times.
Right.
Is,
I appreciate that, mate.
and I hopefully Jan won't watch this. He posted on social media saying he did all the driving. How did that make you feel?
No, I get that, and that's part of the movie. And also, if you look at the credits, when you see the credits, it will say Jordan, Jan, stunt double. That doesn't say anything about driving.
Right,
It is what it is.
Right.
And, you know, at the end of the day, he did do a lot of the driving, and I'm not here to get into that, but that's just how film and TV works.
Okay. Well,
Do you
that's
know
just.
what I mean? Yeah.
I
So I
had
appreciate
to ask that,
yeah.
mate, because that's me wanting to
Yeah.
see
So if
your
you look at,
achievements
I appreciate it.
From the,
and that's
the
it. So I would never, before the movie came out, ever have said anything. It's his time, his limelight, and he's the credible driver. He is the person. That's why he's driven a Ligier car and stuff like that. But yeah, it is what it is. Like, that's just how TV and
that's
film
just
works.
me, like I've said.
I mean, it's crazy.
I want to shout your achievements from
Yeah,
the
no, I
because you were
appreciate
a very
it, mate.
close friend of mine.
Yeah,
so
no,
when
I
I
appreciate
saw
it.
that on social media,
Yeah,
I was like, "Yeah, cheeky, you
Yeah,
shot it."
no. For anyone that's close to me is like, did you really drive it? And I'm like, yeah, I did. Do you know what I mean? I can show you the pictures and whatever to prove it.
So that's good enough for you, and it's television.
You know what?
Movies.
I'm not bothered about. So this is the interesting thing. I'm not that bothered about social media. This is why we're talking, and I'm going to do a social media account. But I'm not that bothered about going, hi, look at me, I did this, I did that. I'm not bothered about that. I'm just here for the ride and the thrill and improving as a person or a driver. Do you know what I mean? I don't need the credit from anyone else. And you know what? The credit for me comes from mates like yourself who I can genuinely talk to. And also the credit comes from me just achieving a job and coming away going, I've done a good job. And that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I am.
I had to ask, that's my personal one.
Yeah.
So we've done Gran Turismo, you come home, you're on top of the world.
I'm buzzing, mate.
And then
At this point, mate, I'm going to be a GT3 driver in my head. And I'm like, how much is it to get into that?
did you go to the cinema to watch it?
Yes, I went with the family. I went with the family, went to the cinema to watch it, and it was just unbelievable. It was quite surreal watching it because I still feel like I'm watching someone else, even though I know it's me in certain scenes of the car. But yeah, quite surreal.
And you wait for the credits to see it because I know I did the same. I went to the cinema, me and the missus, and I'm like, Jordan's name.
Yeah. It's on there, mate. So I'm not lying.
Good. So you come home on top of the world, and then the next adventure that you got with Nicky was
Gran Tour.
okay. So Gran Tour, you did the sand job.
Yeah. So Nicky has. So Nicky's company, I'll just talk about that a second, is Driving Wizards. So Nicky employs drivers who have raced before or precision drivers, and he will put them out to production, film, TV, commercials to do certain things. So for that, he has a core set of team that he usually uses. And then when they're busy, I will then fill in. So some of the drivers are full-time. And then for myself, I'm not full-time, but when the work comes in, I'll go and do a job or whatever. So luckily, for me, childhood dream again, I got to go on this. And that was same again. It was like, I'm on a roll here. I'm going doing a Grand Tour. Like, I'm working with these three guys who I grew up with. Do you know what I mean?
Icons.
Watching on TV,
Yeah.
absolute icons. Like, I couldn't ever imagine just going meeting them one day, let alone I'm working with them and I'm going to be on this show, even though you don't see me. I'm going to be part of it. So, although I'm not driving anything extravagant, as we'll get into, they couldn't have picked a better vehicle for me personally.
Right.
And for me as well, it's that legacy a little bit. Like, I know
You've been part of it.
I'm part of it.
Yeah.
I'm part of it, and not many people can say that they've been part of it, and I've been a big part of it. And
So where was it filmed?
So we went to Africa, Mauritania. So San job was Mauritania down to Senegal, which is all sort of Western Sahara. And it would start in Mauritania, and we'll travel down to Senegal.
And your job was?
So my job was, I was told specifically before I went out there, and I was the backup van.
So anyone who watches Grand Tour, that's when you watch the programme, and it's where they have the three cars. If their cars break down, you've got to jump in this horrible thing.
Yeah, you've got to jump in this, which it's always been a horrible vehicle, really, hasn't it?
And what was the vehicle? Was it now?
So it's the old Merc. I don't know if it's a Sprinter or...
It was an old van.
It was an old Merc. Yeah, it was an old, battered van.
And do they purposely try and get the battered as in... Because it has to be some kind of reliability.
It has to drive. It has to be... They will change the oil. They'll put fresh tyres on it. They'll put fresh brakes on it. Don't know if they do a cam belt change or not. Don't know if the radiator overheats.
But it has to last the journey.
It has to try and do the journey.
Okay, so then, because I don't know none of this, so you've turned up. So the shooting starts. Clarkson, May, and James are in their cars.
Yeah.
Is it right, lads? We're going to drive from A to B today and film.
Yeah.
Jordan, get in your Sprinter van.
Yeah.
And you are literally following the whole way whilst they're going.
Pretty much, yes.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. So, same again. What you won't see is all the crew behind it and everyone, and there'll be separate vehicles for them. Yeah, and they will be following them in their vehicles. And if for whatever reason you get split up, you have your own vehicle.
So you have a support vehicle as well?
Yes, as such, but because the backup van was so slow, I was part of the full support anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got to remember the cars that they were in at the time. So it was the Maserati, the Jag, and the Aston. I'm in this clapped out van. So, it's never going to keep up with them cars as such, but it will always be lurking in the background. And for this, film is film, TV is TV. So at points, they would specifically have it lurking in the background just for the shots that they want, and then you go off and do something else or whatever. But yeah, and for me, it's great doing Gran Turismo. It was unbelievable. But for me, this was a real tick off a list, like bucket list.
Adventure.
Adventure, like not many people, let alone say they've been on Grand Tour, have driven a clapped out van nearly 2,500 miles across Africa. Not many people have done that, have they?
No.
And set the scene again. I always try and justify myself, I don't know why, but bearing in mind it's 40-degree heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 40-degree heat, no wind, because we're not near the coast. No aircon. No aircon. So I'm sat in this van, no aircon, no sat-nav at points.
Right.
So I'm just following the road that I've been told to, or the convoy.
Right.
Yeah, no radio. No luxuries, mate. No power steering. No power. Windy windows. Just dust coming in everywhere. Everything's in the back. So all the stuff that you've seen was in the back, moving about. And yeah, it was just... There was moments in that I had like 4 to 6 hours of myself on my own driving.
Wow.
It was real like reflection on yourself and what you're doing and like the scenery and just unbelievable.
The 4 to 6 hours, because obviously these are the questions that everyone wants to kind of ask, and even I don't want to know.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
You're going to go on it all. So the 4 to 6 hours, do Clarkson and that drive the 4 to 6 hours?
Yes.
So the full trip they drive, there's not...
There's no setup.
They're in the Jeep whilst they're driving.
Yeah, so for me, it was an eye-opener because you're like everything and what we talked about, do they pretty these things up for TV and film or not? Or did they actually do it? And they actually did it. And it was like stuff like, there's a scene where the van goes in the water and you can see him in the water. I didn't want to get in that water. Do you know what I mean? All 3 of them were in the water, and that was some dirty water. And it's like, honestly, the most genuine 3 guys I've ever met. Do you know what I mean? They all did everything. They were all humble again, and they were all just great to talk to. I remember one of the days, and I'm sat in the van ready to go out. It's 40 degrees. I'm just sweating like mad. Caps backwards, shades are on. And I'm like, right, another day in the van, let's do it. And Clarkson walks past and he goes, you're looking cool. And I was like, oh.
Made it moment.
Yeah. Honestly, made it moment for me. And it was just like, yeah, this is just class.
So, they're driving along, breakdowns.
Yes. So this is the question. I'm going to answer it for you. Even it was genuine.
Right.
And I was like, same again, I'd watch it before and I'd be like, oh, they set that up specifically for camera just to make it look good. But no, I was there. I was literally, so one of the scenes where you might see me, because the backup van's always far back. But one of the scenes where you might see me briefly, it was with Hammond. Hammond was having several issues with his car. And we pulled over, boiling hot, and as we pulled over, I can't remember what the issue was. I've done that much stuff now. He was having an issue with his car. I don't know what it was. I think it went into limp mode. So it was like, turn it off, maybe start it again. And I think when he turned it off and started again, he tried putting the roof up because the roof was down at the time. And as the roof comes up, I'm sat in the backup van here, and I just heard the back glass just smashed. That's not set up. That's real.
Right.
There's no way that's set up. No one set that up. And it was just like, stuff does go wrong. And that's why I think it's been one of the great shows, because what happens, and it's genuine. And we know that, but sometimes we want to think it's not.
Question it.
Yeah, we question
for me,
it.
As a mechanic, I see them drive these cars and you see them boil over.
Yeah.
And for me, it's head gasket's gone.
Yeah.
And then they've still got 3,000 miles to go. And you think, they have just topped it up and gone.
Yeah.
So
there is like a truck en route with us. They will maintain the cars. They will fix them when problems do happen. So if there's a niggle on the car, it might get left because
it's entertaining.
It's entertaining, or it might lead to something else. Like his was in limp mode. I think it was reset, but it still went back into limp mode. And there's only so much they can do anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to change the full look of the car or change an engine. That's not part of the story. And obviously, you've got to bear in mind, I've only done one of these.
Yep.
So I've only got my experience of going on that one. But what I can tell you is, everything that happened it happened. Do you know what I mean? As it happened, and it was like, you couldn't write it. You literally couldn't.
Certain events are scripted from what I've read.
Well, I think the show's scripted to an extent, and where they're going to, so crossing the river will be scripted or part of the scene. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like anything, they want to create a good show at the end of the day. They don't want it to just be winging it, because they might not achieve what they want to. But it didn't appear that way when I was on it.
Because that's bad to think now, that they're going 2,500 miles, and yes, they're probably going to put A, B, C, D stops and all that type of thing. If the car's 100% reliable and they just go there to there, because that's where I always surmised they maybe set some stuff up because, it's super reliable, this.
Yeah.
But obviously you're telling the exact complete opposite.
No, yeah, and I
all
think
good.
that they know mechanical failures are going to happen. They're not brand new cars. They're not used to these atmospheres that they're being in, and maybe the things that are set up are to create them mechanical failures. So one of the days we went over, I think they called them the ruts, and it was like 80 mile on ruts. So ruts are just like that.
Yes.
I remember going in the backup van and thinking, this is never going to make it, because it just shakes the thingy out of it, like rattling. And I couldn't believe the backup van. The backup van did not miss a beat. I was like, something's got to go on this van. And the same with their cars. So something with what they've set up may go on the surfaces or the terrains or the areas that they're going.
Right. So then that would basically mean you can go A to B of the full trip on a nice smooth road, but they don't do that. They go the back routes.
Yeah, back routes through water, through sand.
The cars
get
do
stuck.
collapse at some point.
Cars will collapse. Yeah.
I see.
So that would be the scripted or the
Right. Night times. Do they plan the routes to hit a nice hotel on the journey?
We stayed in hotels
all the way along.
Yes. I'm just trying to think. But I say we stayed in hotels. We didn't stay in hotels for the full of it. So what they did there was they got a company in from Dakar who do the Dakar rallies, and they put up the big tents outside. We're staying in them. So one of the stories, first night I get there, gets him in my tent. I'm in there with a lad that I've never worked with before, and I go to get him a tent, gets in bed, looks up, bearing in mind I'm thinking, I want to get an early night, I want to do a good job tomorrow. Looks up, huge spider on the roof. I am not scared of spiders, and they don't bother me one bit whatsoever, but I'm in this foreign country with this spider that's probably the size of my palm. It's got a big abdomen on the back, and it's blowing in the tent, and I'm looking up and I'm asleep, and I'm like, I can't do it, I can't sleep here with that, I don't know what it is. So I goes and tells one of the other lads, and the other lad's like, stop being soft, what's up with you? It's just a spider. Comes in, I'm not sleeping in here with that. Like, so then it was like, right, so where we was, Western Africa, we had guards there with us because it's known as a terrorist zone, red zone, threat zone, so it's a dangerous area. And when a guard comes in with his gun, and I'm there like, spider on the roof. And he's like, has a look, and he gets his torch on it, and he's having a good look at this spider, and he's like, it's okay. And he just grabs it.
Oh, right.
But the fact that he put his torch and he was inspecting it told me that there's some nasties out there. Yeah. So it does open up your eyes that a little bit.
So then technically then, when we see Clarkson and that at the side of the road where they say they slept in the cars, they are on the side of the road, but they are in the Dakar tent with the spares.
But I can only speak for
you can speak to what you've
seen.
I
think from watching it in the past, they very much slept in tents. They are grafters. Right. They are literally doing like the same hours as everyone. Do you know what I mean? The same stuff as everyone. Walking through the same places, eating the same food. There's no separation.
So are the days when you see on there? Because I'm going to try and remember the episode where they say they've got to drive for 10 hours.
Yeah, they will be. That won't be a lie. Yeah. They don't get on a plane and meet there or get a private.
Driven.
No.
All right, they're doing the shifts themselves.
Yeah, they're doing it.
That's big respect to them.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like when I was on there, I was like, there was no, I can't believe we're doing this. Like over them, we were literally doing everything with them.
So the Dakar truck and the service trucks, are they carrying tons of spares?
No, they're carrying something to keep a car running.
So
there's no spare engines or air filters, or there might be wheels, and that's it. Because obviously, if there's a wheel that's gone, it's over. Yeah. So I think with that, they had a spare wheel on the car, but there's nothing like, there's no spare body panels, no spare headlights. There's nothing.
Right.
Literally the car.
The car is the car, and it goes, and they're just basic repair tools.
Basic stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's such an eye-opener, mate. Honestly, I was like, because for me, you never see that side of it.
No.
And for me, I was like, this is as genuine as it seems as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So...
And I've always said to you, you should get into it.
Yeah.
I've always said this. Because some of them lads that are doing it, so tooled up, mate, and so mechanically minded, and also, it's all good to be mechanically minded, but also good to think outside the box as well, which you need to do, yeah.
So what was the best experience on that one? If you had to pinpoint one, or was it just being around the three?
Yeah, it's so hard to say the best experience on it. The whole thing was the best experience. Like, there's not one bit that was Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I just appreciate the whole experience. It's hard to pinpoint just one experience. I mean, at one point, I'm in the backup van and all three of them are in, and we pulled over somewhere and they're talking, and I feel like I'm part of that trio for that point. Do you know what I mean? Because I am part of the trio. I'm the backup vehicle, and they're all just talking and they're having a minute at the side of the road, and then we're driving and we're filming, and I'm like, I'm now part of what was the Top Gear Grand Tour trio on the road. Not many people have done that.
Cool.
Cool. Do you know what I mean?
No, brilliant.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? What's anything in the pipeline? What's coming up?
So as with all my work, I have a full-time job, and then I will get a contact off Nicky, and he will be like, oh, I've got a job doing this, or I need you to do this, because he doesn't just do TV commercials, he does manufacturer work with different manufacturers, advertising them for their stuff. And then luckily for me, what's happened is I've worked on one job, Higgy put me onto another person, who then I went out and did The Killer, which is a movie in France, which has come out. I can talk about it because it's come out. And that was cool because, and I'm just sort of relaying what I've done. And that was like the first thing that I've done where I've had to drive a vehicle, handbrake turn while shooting a gun. And it was like, okay, you've got to think about this one now. So I had a silver, I must be known as a van man. I had this silver van and I break through these barriers, and I was just like, this is cool. These barriers go everywhere. And next minute, I've got this gun. And it was the first time I'd shot firearms, obviously as part of a scene. I'd done clay pigeon shooting or whatever. But that was kind of cool because I'm shooting at a guy and the guy's normal, and then next minute, all these explosions go, and the guy goes like this, and I'm like, I'm shooting at him, but I've got to remember to drive this van, but I'm enjoying shooting this guy, and I'm going,
watching what's going on.
Yeah. And then literally like turning the corner, shooting another guy, and then I'm like, handbrake turn, and it was just like, for me, that was kind of cool because I've never shot, so that was the sort of action and stunt side with it as well. And then, for me, what's next is I'm just waiting. I don't know what that job might be. That job could be
back being a firefighter, being a dad.
Yeah, just basically back to normal life, mate. And then we'll see what comes. But I think for me at the moment, and we've been talking about it, I've just got I've got my track car, my Nova, and then I've just got a little MX-5 turbo, which basically, like anything, I'm just practicing my craft now. So I'm developing myself to get better and better. And I think that's all it is. And if another job comes up, another job comes up. If
anyway,
it doesn't,
you want to thank? I think you thanked Nick. I think you thanked Nick enough.
You know what? Yeah, there's so many people to thank. Like I said, I'll go back from Kerry, who put us on Faster, Race the World. Or I'll even go back to my missus. Because my missus, without her saying, you should apply for this, why are you stalling, go and do it. And I would have never applied for it. And this would have never led to all these other things that I've done. So I owe her massively for that. And I think that's a big shout out to anyone that's like stalling at doing something, just flipping do it. And if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter. But yeah, shout out to her, shout out to Kerry who put me on Faster. And then, yeah, there's a couple of people. There's Andy Harris, who's a safety guy and all the stuff that was on Faster, that's gone on Gran Turismo, and he's always backed me up and helped me with stuff and looked after us. Nicky, massively, because I wouldn't be doing any of this without him. He knows how much I owe him, and I tell him all the time, and I can never repay him for the opportunities that he's given me, other than doing a good job, and that's all that matters. And then all the other drivers, Higgy, who's put us on to a couple of other jobs, and I just appreciate his support. And there's too many to mention, but all of them I do appreciate. Putting someone who is just a family guy doing a normal job into a position or situation which he would never usually be in.
Cool. So that's the perfect thing to sign off with. I just want to say thanks, Jordan, for your time, mate. I really appreciate it. It's been nice to catch up and get the final stories. Something a bit different for the channel, just to chat with someone. Hopefully we'll be doing more of these in the future. So that'll end this one, and I'll sign it off, guys. I hope you all enjoyed that, and I'll see everyone on the next video.
Bye.